So hi Matthew, good to see you again.
How are you, Linda?
I'm good. So thank you for taking the time out to come out for a drive with me, and we're going to just have a wee chat and maybe just get an update on how things have been going since the last time we chatted. That was probably, how long ago was that?
It's been a good 4 months, maybe 6 months, is it nearly?
Probably, yeah.
Probably 6 months.
So just to, I know the last time that we did the video, you were talking about sort of depression and how you were managing all of that. And so if you can just give me a little bit of an update as to
where I am, sort of thing.
Yeah, and what have you been doing since I last saw you?
Well, I think at the moment I've definitely taken a lot more time recently to think about where I am. Thinking about just actually, taking a lot of these mental health questions seriously.
Yeah.
And that was just something I have done in the past. I had a lot of exploration into sort of thinking that it might be there, but really just taking the time through studies and everything else just to really get a grasp on what I was feeling and really me. So since then I've got a wee sort of counsellor on the go, and I've just been to the doctors a couple more times and feeling in a much better place now.
I did a video on looking at the game Fortnite, where it's extremely important at the moment, or extremely popular at the moment, and especially with younger kids. And I know that some of the articles that I've read when I was doing some research was saying how addictive it is. What do you think about that?
I think all games are addictive. I mean, that's sort of their point. But if you look at the likes of Candy Crush, for example, even just a mobile phone game, and the amount of hours and the amount of sort of just it's called microtransactions, really.
Okay.
And that's where you're not being asked to pay full price for the game. So a lot of people have been knowing that they could go in for the likes of their Call of Duties or their FIFAs and all these big name games that a lot of people play. Well, they're all sort of charged full price, and then there's nothing to pay.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of these casual games, and even like Fortnite, is free to play from up front.
Yeah.
But where they get you is the extra stuff that you can get whenever you're paying a little bit. And that just leaves more overhead for them to make money over time. The problem is that there is actually the currency, and then how kids perceive it. I think the addiction thing is probably the biggest thing, more than the actual sort of the currency behind it.
Yes.
Because why the kids are sort of there, it is addictive.
It's the desire to,
yeah,
and it's the pulling them into something that just makes the desire greater. Is it? It
is, but in much the same way as kids won't want to leave the play park.
Yes. Yeah.
In much the same way as they're gonna grab sweeties in the store, they're not gonna try and grab a bit of cauliflower or anything and say, "Can you buy me this?"
Yeah.
Kids are always going to want the bad thing.
Yes.
They're always going to want that exciting thing, and they do have a community there. They are able to chat to people. These are real people that they're interacting with. They're able to interact with, and they could be big bad people. It could be anything. They could just be the characters on the screen. It's whatever they feel they want to. So there's a real attraction to that, and it is really just parenting as well that comes back to the kids do want the bad thing.
They do.
They do. They always want the bad thing.
So tell me a little bit about, and you were saying that you keep away from games. Tell me a little bit about, your story in terms of that.
Well, I would have been heavily addicted to gaming, and I would have started in a house where, we had technology from a very small period, and I don't think there was any ever lessons, at that point, because technology was so new.
Yes.
That how could you ever know that spending too much time on it would possibly be a bad thing whenever it didn't exist before?
And what age are you talking about, and how long ago would that have been?
Well, if I look back to my absolute youth, and I think about growing up just even as a young kid, we were one of the first ones to get a computer.
Okay.
And this is well before the days of the internet.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, there was no games consoles, or if there were, they were the really just like Pong, you know, that kind of.
Oh yeah, the ping pong.
Yep, one of those wee ones.
At what age would you have been when you started to play seriously?
So, my gaming sense, I would have started with the PlayStation, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I played games on the computer. I remember a couple of really old games that I would spend late night. But for me, actually, back then, it was also there would be programs within what I would like, for example, Photoshop.
Okay.
We had Photoshop way back in those days.
Right.
So I would get addicted to those things as well.
Okay. So do you think you have an addictive nature?
I would have an addictive nature anyway.
Yeah.
But I suppose the games I was playing, I would play. I got quite addicted to the online gaming thing because it had just came out, and there was the chance that you could play with people that are in their house.
Yes.
And for this was completely new. We would have to get together and organise going around to someone's house to play together. We would have to have our mum's permission and everything to go over and to interact with these people. Then there was the chance that we had to move, just connect to the person over in the other end of the county.
Right.
You know, the other end of the town, even a few doors down without ever going round.
Okay, so that was appealing.
Yeah.
Right.
And me and these guys could take on the whole of the world. Like me and my friend could get in a little group and take on the whole of the world.
Yeah.
So of course you're going to want to come home from school and do that.
Of course.
You know, and I still regularly keep up to date with games. I still think the universes are brilliant.
Yes.
There's something that parents might not know. There's a thing called Twitch TV. Twitch is kind of like, everybody knows YouTube.
Yeah.
And Twitch is really like the gamers' YouTube, and it allows me not to put up highlights of my games, not things that I've stitched together, but allows me to almost go live on Facebook, or just allows me to go straight from my TV in my room to the internet, and anybody can watch my game. And now you think, why would anybody watch anybody playing a computer game when you can play one yourself? Well, you might not be as good as these people. These people might be the best in your class. You might learn tips and tricks. You might have people doing things that you've never even seen possible, and then you're going to go out and try.
You know, to me, it's to do with the amount of time.
Sheer time?
That it takes. So you've got kids, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, who are going to be starting school in September. They're at school all day. They've got homework to do, so then they have free time in the evening, but then they need time to go to a group, go play outside, go do whatever, play football, whatever, girls go dancing.
Yeah, I think the question is, what would you do otherwise? If you don't have an answer for what would you do otherwise,
yes, then
you haven't thought really through the problem, because you've also got the idea of this thing is there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's, to be entirely honest, whenever it comes to school, for the parents it can be quite inconvenient that it's still there.
The game is still there even
the game is still there even whenever they go back to school.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because the kids, for them, it's always been there.
Yeah.
They don't really see an awful lot. They're not getting their balance, perhaps, in terms of out walking along logs and trying to, sit in swings, etc.
Yeah.
They're getting their balance entirely through gaming and thinking through that mindset of player on screen.
Yes, yeah. And one of the other things as well that I know I've heard when I've been speaking to parents is that the kids are not, their kids will say, it's boring. Real life is boring. So these games are like intense, exciting, there's a purpose in it, you're with other people, whatever. So then real life seems very boring. That to me is concerning.
In a lot of ways, the kids are right.
They are, absolutely.
Compared to what? And that's what's that's a wee bit upsetting, to people to really accept. that compared to what they're actually doing in those games, they are flying spaceships, they are blowing things up, they can do whatever their mind creates, and all of a sudden in the world they're not able to. So in a lot of ways it has become boring, and TV too. You know, that these dramas will manifest themselves so quickly and easily on TV.
And soaps,
exactly.
Lives and everything. So how do we bring a balance in that? I mean, you know, when you were saying about that, now you won't look and play the video games. How did you get that balance, and what was it that made you want to get that balance in life, and what was it that you saw at that time?
For me, I found the balance really came from. It took me a while to realise that I was wasting a lot of time doing this.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, for me, find just time. I was going to make more time, and then I was going to do something then. I had to put something in which took up more time.
Yeah, okay.
That was what I had to do. I didn't try to cut it down, wait, and then find something else to do my time with, because that didn't work for me at all.
Yeah.
What I did was I had to put in something else that would stop me. For me, sometimes it was reading. An awful lot of time that would really help me. Other times it was just actually scheduling in something which I didn't think that I wanted to.
Yeah.
Something like the gym.
Okay.
It's hard sometimes to disconnect from what you want to do the conceivably hard thing.
Yeah.
That's because you conceive it's hard because you've got yourself into a mental loop, and you don't even know you're in a mental loop because you're in a mental loop.
Yes.
And trying it is what it is. Putting that thing in and doing that a few times, changing the scenery, changing your ideas as to what everything is, and just sticking it out for a few days. You have to convince your brain not that this exercise is a chore that I'm not going to enjoy, but to actually just turn off from an interference, a loop, to block yourself from that loop. Go listen to some music that you weren't listening to, go listen to a talk on something, and all of a sudden you'll find yourself in a much more restful place and able to be present and actually focus on just that wee task. I think that having, especially the idea of exercise or anything, you know, relating to getting up, getting out, walking the dog, that is you taking a mental break. Do you know what I mean? And that's being able to separate. It's something that I had to learn a wee bit. Even gaming, you would get addicted to the next game because you'd be in lobbies with friends. I suppose this is some of the pressures that kids might know, or parents might know the kids face within games. For example, the reason that maybe you wouldn't take a break is because you have been playing 6 games and they're going well with maybe say 3 of your mates, so all 4 of you are together, and now all of a sudden, you know, one of you has to go or one of the things. Of course you've got 3 voices in your ear. Stay on, come on, a couple more, and I'm not doing this, you know, I'm not doing. They've got all these influences, and that's one of the reasons you can't just pause a game and come down for dinner.
Yes, I know that.
Because there isn't a pause whenever it involves other people. These things all happen out almost as if you're transporting yourself onto a playing field somewhere else.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
And you've got to stay there for the duration?
Or you're going to be penalised. I suppose those stats mattering are the idea that children are competitive, that they're engaging, but it's also that they're only engaging in the one thing.
That's it.
So,
and you know, everything is all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
And what do we replace it with as well? And
what do you replace it with? And I suppose it's also helping the children to learn self-control, but then is that pretty difficult when your desire to participate is stronger?
I think, to be entirely honest, you see, there's so much for the child to actually gain there's so much for the child to gain about playing games. You've got dexterity, you've got critical thinking. Do I have time to go in here? Do I have time to do, if I move over here, I always seem to die, maybe next time I shouldn't. And there's tactical thinking, there's working together. There's not just competitive games. There is games where the idea is cooperation. You have the likes of Minecraft, where the idea is that you're going out to basically just dig up the earth together, and you and your friend must survive against these monsters, and you can build castles and houses. So you can spend your time. That's like planning. That's architecture. That's design. There's everything in that. It's like Lego blocks, which I would have grown up playing with. However, these ones you can create an entire universe,
which is amazing. I mean, it is amazing
for free, essentially, because you've already got, and you're able to expand up.
I suppose one of the other things that I would think about, and from a parent's perspective, is that yes, while there is great things, and it's again to do with boundaries, isn't it? You know, a certain length of time is fine, but we are seeing, and research is showing that obesity is higher. Kids are not playing outside like they used to play outside. So there's very much, everything's indoors. So the whole thing of exercising, social skills, being able to talk face to face with peers.
I think that's a lot to do with my current generation of the ones that I would know, with young kids. You know, they're the ones that are addicted to phones and technology, and haven't understood it. That my generation really don't understand their own addictions to the phones. The amount of times that you will look through Facebook, close Facebook, and reopen Facebook because you've just had your head in a cycle. That's a pattern of addiction that we don't recognise, and it's a lot to do with the parents' addictions that are allowing the kids' addictions to spiral on a wee bit. And we see it so much more from society than we do necessarily in our own homes.
But in terms of the gaming, it's something that you've probably grasped.
Gaming and bad TV, it's I've grasped it with gaming, but for me, gaming, I could sit down and play a game, and to be entirely honest, I would worry about being addicted to it again. Because I do see the actual sheer joy of it, you know what I mean? I could get lost in this storyline just as easily as I could get lost in a Netflix movie or a Netflix series. There is that sort of level of addiction which I just battle with, but I've come to terms with that quite a lot, and it's something that I do know consciously that I'm not allowing myself to do, just because once I'm out of it for a while. I mean, if you were to give any piece of advice, even to parents or even teachers or whatever, what would that be? I would advise the little trick with going on to either your internet provider or going on to Google, getting the numbers in the bottom of your hub. Either it's a BT hub or Sky hub or whatever it is that you've got. You can find out how to set up the parental controls in that, so that you can cut off the internet to certain devices at certain times. With a lot of the newer ones, this is entirely possible. So it means that you have just that little bit more option of control. And regardless of how bad you are with technology, quite often there's people at the end of free phones that will talk you through it. It doesn't matter how scared you are of it, you'll get through that. But you will give yourself a modicum more of control. And having sleep is huge for kids.
Absolutely.
So just, if you're going to get any advice, get them their sleep so they can develop. And this is me without kids saying this, you see. So, we're going to be, if I could get you anything though, sleep was huge for me, and I guarantee it'll be huge for them as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming out for our drive.
It's a great wee drive.
Bumpy along the way. And it's been really good to see you again, Matthew.
It's been absolutely brilliant seeing you.
Yeah, so thanks.
No problem.
Okay.
Do a handshake, or I'll go for a hug, but we're still belted in.
We're still belted in. We'll not go for hugs. So thanks
Thank
anyway.
you very much, Linda.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
See you again soon.
Bye. See you.